Catherine, do you have a sense of that as well?
Well, I much like what I would echo everything these two on my left have said, and I think I would just add that one of the things we have seen with the social entrepreneurs that we've dealt with is that they view it as a calling. Yeah. It is a calling for them, and it's almost like I didn't decide to do this. I had no choice. This was sort of, it's in my DNA.
You know, we hear that a lot in conversation. It's often difficult to convince universities to embrace that particular view. You know, it's a little bit more towards almost a spiritual kind of connection to change. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, but yeah, there is. Catherine referred to it. There is this. I think there's this buy-in in some of the public policy schools that it's a very traditional outlook that if you've got a social problem, that's why we have government. And we've discovered government is not the answer to some social problem. It's great at transferring money. It's great at collecting money and then putting it out there. It is not so good at working in the arena on a face-to-face basis and trying to bring actual change. And actually change the way people live, lift their hopes, introduce new ideas. It's got a sclerotic quality to it, but there is a tendency, I think, for some within every faculty, I think, that there are going to be those who believe in the old traditional ways of doing things, and there are new people coming along who are pushing back. And I think over time, the people who are coming along, the fresh people, are going to win. But it's going to take a while. It took a while in integrative medicine. When integrative medicine was first introduced in a lot of medical schools, the medical profession said, oh, no, you got to stick to Western medicine, you got to stick to the science. And people began to say, you know, there are some things we could learn from Eastern medicine. There are ways about wellness and meditation and that sort of thing that could change. Integrative medicine is now an important part of medicine. Our daughter is the guy, is in integrative medicine. She's a doctor, and serving the underserved population. But she's deeply into integrative medicine because it is, and I think it's now embraced. And I think that's going to happen in social entrepreneurship. The students get it; they get it big time. The faculties don't fully get it.
How are we doing on that, Ellen? I think we're getting it, but
you guys are doing better. You guys are doing better than we are.
There's a conventional wisdom about how to do this, and we're trying to challenge the conventional wisdom. I think you are. We are basically saying, how do you do this?
Yeah.
One of the can I just add one thing? One of the reasons when the foundation was looking to institutionalize social entrepreneurship fellows, one of the reasons we did that at NYU and Harvard is that we thought it was really important to have sort of that academic seal of approval to the whole discipline of social entrepreneurship. And I think even 5, 6, 7 years ago when we started this discussion and started the programs, the Harvard program actually started before the NYU program, it was really new. And in many ways, we broke barriers then because we wanted this cross-discipline. And I think just in the last 5 years, you've seen an enormous amount of growth in that area.
I agree.
But a large part of that comes from the fact that programs like at NYU and Harvard have institutionalized, the academic world has sort of gotten behind this.
Well, we're in a field that's contrarian by nature, right? So in order to do this, you've got to be a contrarian.
4 of them on this panel.
Well, in order to study it, you've got to be a contrarian too. And that's not exactly a popular position to always be in. I'm just going to ask one more question, then we're going to take questions because we are going to be on a timeline. There's this new idea that entrepreneurs have to be a little bit crazy. And I'm not going to tell you what I think about it. I have my view of it, but there's this idea by a clinical assistant professor at Hopkins that you got to be hypomanic, and that's a good thing. I wonder whether that's a confusion between a medical approach and the purpose that you've been talking about. When we look for fellows, should we be looking for people who are just a little bit crazy? Or should we be looking for that
Just the
purpose?
professors.
Yeah, just the professors. Well, we're just a little bit eccentric, not crazy. I don't think.
I would say every entrepreneur I've ever met really borders on being a juvenile delinquent.
We just got the lead for the story.
I think that might be true.
I mean it in the best sense of the word. Description.
Well, rebellious, yes.
Sure, sure.
Unwilling to take the ordinary path, perhaps. I mean, just one quick question, and people who want to ask a question should head to the mics. What's the single most important characteristic? I mean, if you have one question that we should all be asking in a fellowship program or in an investment program, David, you're involved with New Profit, which is investing. What is it? I mean, if you could just ask one thing to make your call, what is it?
One quality?
One question. We've got a bunch of nascent entrepreneurs who might like to be Reynolds Fellows. If you could just ask one thing or look for one characteristic, what would it be?
It's hard to boil that down, but I do think it requires a restless, creative soul who cares about the common good and wants to make a difference. As the guy from Apple said, you want to make a dent in the universe. I think that's really critical.
Wayne?
I guess for most of us, it would be at the end of your life, what do you want to have done? I mean, what do you stand for? What did you want to accomplish with your life? And I think, making a difference is really tough. I mean, it's almost impossible on a large scale, but maybe making a difference to one person or one classroom or one school or one community, but try to make a difference. In Washington, they don't like that, but in the rest of the country, we all try to make a difference for the good.
Catherine?
It's hard to boil it down to one thing, but I think you have to be a bold, big thinker who's not afraid of failure and who has the perseverance to see things through.
I always like to ask the question, why are you here? Let them define what that question means. That gets to your purpose issue, your restless soul. If they say, well, I'm here for the fellowship, you know the answer to that one. Let's take a question or two, and then we're going to pull this to a close.